The launch of the PS5 had a nice plethora of launch games from the likes of a classic reborn with a fresh coat of paint and a familiar yet new web-slinger of Harlem. Although as far as I could tell, it was missing its smaller scale, gameplay focused arcade game that the PS4 got with Resogun. Lilymo Games is no stranger to great games, with the likes of the original Habroxia in 2019 and Twin Breaker, a Sacred Symbols adventure in 2020. Habroxia 2, however, stands out to be nothing short of great, bringing beautiful pixel art, satisfying gameplay mechanics, and a soundtrack that nails the tone of this retro-styled old-school space shooter. Disclaimers before we head into my full thoughts on Habroxia 2. To start, I was provided with a review copy of the game for PlayStation 4, but was played on PlayStation 5 via backwards compatibility. I am also a patron of the Last Stand Media Patreon that is primarily ran by Colin Moriarty, who owns a majority stake in Lilymo Games. While pixel art isn't that rare of an occurrence in games today, Habroxia 2 does its art in fantastic fashion. The game is colorful, vibrant, and really draws the eye whether you're looking at enemy ships you're combating or the environments you find yourself in throughout the game's levels. Something I really took note of was the detail within various aspects of the environment. Meteors that are sprinkled across levels not only act as a utility for the chance to draw power-ups, they are detailed in such a way that takes account of depth and shadowing that I appreciated during my playtime. One of my favorite aspects visually was the game's main menu that called back to Final Fantasy VII's open world in a way. It's a static image that unravels and changes as you complete levels across the galaxy. Levels are represented by literal twinkling stars that shine brighter to indicate a level that has not yet been beaten or a level that has objectives still left to complete. There are also blue stars that indicate your next main mission, and it all just has a visual styling that really stood out to me personally. It really creates a sense of uniqueness that you don't see in games today that tend to chase resolution counts and frame rates. Habroxia 2's music is catchy, really catchy at that. Levels throughout the game have super intricate chiptunes that expertly accompany the pace and threat level of enemy ships. The game really proves that having killer boss fight music is critical and makes the fight just as memorable as the means to take to overcome said boss in a given boss fight. I'm pretty certain that the song that played during the credits, called Return Coordinates Locked, is the main theme for Habroxia 2. However, if it isn't, it really should be, because it stands out in the best ways possible and is far and away my favorite track in the game. Other standouts are 0 Hour, Arrive Engage, and so many more. I loved figuring out levels as they are, but hearing them through the game's music made the experience that much more enjoyable. Understanding that Habroxia 2 was developed by the small team at Lilymo Games, I expected to encounter a few things here and there in terms of performance, but proud to report that I didn't encounter anything that compromises the game's playable integrity. The game runs great from frame rate to stability, having seemingly no issues of the sort that could feasibly affect the aspects of Habroxia 2. As of the writing of this review, I played the game using backwards compatibility on PlayStation 5, even though technically it is a PS4 game. I did reach out for a PS Vita code, however they were not given North American codes just yet for reviewers, but I have to imagine given Lilymo Games' former projects on the platform like Twin Breaker, and you couple that with the overall scale of Habroxia 2, the performance should be okay on the PlayStation handheld as well. Habroxia 2 has a story that continues after the events of the original Habroxia, but I wouldn't worry about feeling lost on the plot if you didn't play the first game. It's a pretty limited narrative as the game has a clear focus on its addicting gameplay, and I was completely fine with it. You play as a young pilot named Sabrina in search of her father as an SOS message echoes into the depths of space that calls upon her to save his life. It's nothing super detailed or great, but it does the job by serving a little explanation as to why the vibrantly blue-haired woman takes up the task of journeying into the great unknown. As stated before, the main menu is really great and sets itself apart from other games in today's age, but a different story plays out within the menus. The menus are as any menu should be in 2021. clear and to the point. No unnecessary animations that slows down the menu in any way, with no music playing in there as well, aside from the much appreciated music selection that you can equip to any level you want. It's refreshing, considering some of the biggest games in the industry fail miserably at this aspect of games. Level design and enemy placement start out challenging, but over time gets super engaging and satisfying. Throughout Habroxia 2 levels lies plenty of opportunities to attain health, boosts, special weapons, and more. The game really shines bright when you're in the heat of battle on your last hit point, when a health power up appears in the debris of your attacks. Special weapons add a multitude of useful get out of jail free card abilities like a massive laser beam or a barrage of bombs to clear the play space. You'll fight your way through expertly designed levels that contain secrets and different avenues to head towards that may uncover new bosses, along with providing great replayability. This may be a greedy point, but I really would have loved to see more ways to do a level with more ways to steer off of the main path. Most levels seem to only have one alternate path, and I would have loved to see it expanded, but perhaps that may be for a third iteration in the franchise if it were to ever be made. I do have a single gripe in terms of level design, and that is that the game is essentially broken up into two strings of missions. However, to get to the second string of missions to appear, you must defeat all of the bosses within the first string of missions, even the ones that stray from the main path within levels. I feel that the game doesn't effectively convey this, and although it became apparent after close inspection with the stars twinkling indicating more can be done in that level, it wasn't as clear as I thought it would be. Just kidding, I have one more gripe to pick with Habroxia 2. That is that, at least on PlayStation 5, when you hit the share button, or the create button I guess, to take a screenshot, it will pause the game automatically and not let you take a screenshot of what's happening on screen. So hopefully that's something that is really small. Hopefully it's already fixed in a day one patch, but just wanted to point it out there as well. Habroxia 2 oozes with style from its pixel-based graphics and incredible soundtrack, but for me what makes the game stand out amongst the rest is the weapons and upgrades. As you play and unlock different weapons to use on your ship that vary from simple Vulcan cannons to the shotgun-esque scatter shots. My personal favorite has to go with the rockets. Seriously, they're homing rockets and deal a ton of damage, but you don't have to just pick one weapon though. You choose two weapons before you go into a given level, one forward weapon and one rear weapon. Essentially, you have three weapons with the primary fire on your right stick, your forward weapon with R1, and L1 acting as your rear weapon. While it sounds like a lot to juggle, the control scheme really serves itself to prove that it's anything but complex. I started to really get the hang of the controls and added to the overall satisfying feeling of combat, chipping away damage using my primary fire, followed by the finishing blow with rockets, along with using scatter shots on the rear to fend off any other ships trying to get the upper hand, was incredibly fun and easily accessible due to the game's fast loading times. The weapons even upgrade over time to the sequels of their original names, indicating clearly that as much as I love rockets, Rockets 2 is a whole other beast. On top of all of that, the upgrades don't stop at the natural ones you'll earn, but an entire upgrade list exists in the game to give you the edge. Upgrades for your ship can be exchanged with points garnered in levels to enhance your base health, strengthen your pickup magnets so power-ups float faster towards your ship, and increase your primary weapon spread, allowing sloppy aim to be forgiven. It doesn't even stop at that, with Habroxia 2 ship upgrades even bolstering the effectiveness of power-ups themselves, allowing the laser and bombs to pack a bigger punch, along with having stronger and more resistant bubble or orbital shields as well. On paper, I admit, it sounds like a lot to manage and upgrade, but in practice, it really is streamlined and offers great depth where it's most useful. Do not be mistaken, Habroxia 2 is no cakewalk in terms of difficulty, but that's what made the game stick to me personally. Even when you're stuck on a level, you're gaining points to empower yourself via the upgrades in the game that really made a tangible difference. Along with that, I really felt myself getting better at the game due to the game having a refined and thought out control scheme. Shooting behind me while dodging fire and using one of my forward specials felt like second nature to me after a few hours into the game, which was something I thought I'd never be able to do early on. Ultimately, what I'm getting at here is that due to Lilimo Games focusing on expanding the gameplay mechanics from Habroxia 1, they've cultivated a gameplay loop that is full of enjoyment. Whether you're trying out different weapons and upgrades, New Game Plus mode, Boss Rush mode, which is endlessly fun fun in itself, Habroxia 2 expanded to bolster its best qualities from the original game. It did what I wish a lot of other sequels would do, refined and most importantly expands what the game before it accomplished. While one could argue that Habroxia and Habroxia 2 look similar, I find the game to play vastly different than the original game back in 2019. With the gameplay of the series being its main pull, it's nice to see that the developers understand that and invested in not appearances or different modes that change up what Habroxia is, but the gameplay itself for the latest edition in the series. Habroxia 2 is full of action-packed gameplay that exudes what it takes to be amongst the best retro space shooters in 2021. From its pixel art, soundtrack, and expansive upgrades, Habroxia 2 will keep you engaged from your first battle to the final boss. Although not the flashiest game to play on your last gen console or your brand new current generation hardware, it does excel in what games should be excelling in: gameplay. Habroxia 2 doesn't overstay its welcome, clocking in at about 6 to 7 hours to beat, with 10 to 12 being required to 100% the game, but it does so with a value proposition that aligns its low costs with excellent game mechanics. Habroxia 2 is the Resogun of the PlayStation 5 that will keep you coming back for more and deserves to take up space in your game console during this first half of 2021 in games. Huge thanks to Lilimo Games for the opportunity to review their game early and be able to play it early. Huge thank you to the team over at Lilimo Games and Last Stand Media as a whole. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video as well as say subscribe to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Also, if you are playing Habroxia 2 or plan to play it, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.